You are now tuned in to the Storm Tracker podcast.
Welcome back, family, to the Storm Tracker podcast. I'm Marcus Benjamin, representing for CanesCounty.com, part of the Rivals.com network. Make sure you follow this podcast on all platforms and also subscribe to this YouTube channel live from Canes County. Today, I have Wes Lamy joining me, the founder of WorldWideWest.com, longtime sports writer here in South Florida, to talk Canes versus NC State. Thanks for joining me today, Wes.
Hey, Marcus. It's good to be here, man. Long overdue, man. Really mean it. You know, from our days, obviously, just running into each other and covering the Canes, man. Long overdue.
Yeah, absolutely. For those that don't know, me and Wes are usually side by side in the press box watching the game, either crying, yelling, or just giving our
disbelief.
Right. Because following this football team has been a roller coaster, but it seems like things are kind of trending towards the right direction. I mean, two straight wins in the conference, albeit the overtime variety. So it kind of tugs on your heartstrings a little bit, at least for Hurricanes fans. But the big question that everybody kind of has going into this game, Wes, is which TVD is going to stand up? Will the real TVD stand up here? And is he going to revert back to where he was 4-0 this season, or on that tear during 2021, or will he revert back to the TVD that we've seen in his last two starts? Do you think he bounces back against NC State?
Well, so you were there, Marcus, too, in the post game, in the last win, in terms of the way that TVD was at the press conference, and he said, "Hey, I need to be better. I need to prepare. It's all me." He's blaming himself for this. He's saying, "Hey, I got to prepare better. I got to do better." Now, this is TVD who's been with the U for a while now, and it's quite concerning. However, with his play, with injury to play also, that's kicked in for him also, will the real TVD stand up? You're right. Or will the real Slim Shady please stand up? So it's going to come a point where we have to say, okay, TVD, you're in a good spot here. 6-2. And at the same time, we thought this team could have been maybe worse. So he needs to. He's taken it. He said, hey, look, I need to prepare better. Is he preparing? Is he doing what he needs to do? If he is, yes. That's it. Because if the struggles are still there, then there's something going on there. And they're going to come a point where we saw someone replace him already. And then we said, hey, pretty good. Pretty good. So TVD, we know he's in the quarterback room. We know he's taking knowledge of his struggles. And the key thing that he needs to do now is three games on the road of the last four, Marcus, right?
As far as like not good.
The remaining, the remaining games, the remaining games of the season.
Yeah, we've got 4 games left.
4 games, 3 of them on the road.
3 on the road, yep.
Correct. So the point I'm trying to say is, so now, I mean, it's him for the taking here to really prove, hey, he can finish this year strong, and at the same time, this is it here. This is it for the taking. And I've seen him play well on the road. Nothing against the home field at all, because you play your schedule. But at the end of the day, I've seen TVD play well on the road, and he has to step up this week.
Yeah, I think the last time we saw TVD play well on the road was not even last season. It was the year before, 2021. He won a battle against Pittsburgh, and then it was a blowout win against Duke to kind of end the season. What's troubling for most Hurricane fans with TVD, though, is these turnovers, man. I mean, he's been just turnover prone, throwing interceptions. He had 3 against Georgia Tech. He had 3 against North Carolina, 3 turnovers, 2 interceptions, 1 fumble. And he had 2 more interceptions against Virginia and nearly had a third if it wasn't for Jacoby George knocking the ball out last minute. I remember you in the press box that night. You were like 3, and I was like, no, it's incomplete. It's incomplete.
Yes.
and and so that's troubling, man. It's just to see that you can't have turnovers. You can't have that, especially in these conference games. This is kind of big boy football when you start playing conference games. My question to you, Wes, is if he starts out sputtering again here, where he throws an interception, he throws a second one, albeit maybe a third, maybe. I mean, at
We don't
what
want a third. Wow.
right? At what point do the coaches decide we're going to go with Emory, as you alluded to earlier? Emory Williams
Yeah.
is he looked pretty good, looked decent enough. He looked like a good game manager against Clemson, and the way this defense is playing and the way this running game
Yes.
comes through, as we saw late in the game against Virginia, you can pretty much trust those two elements of the game. And special teams has been outstanding as well.
Borregales, yes. So
Yeah.
you hit it on all facets. Special teams, the running game, and the defense is what got them through the last win, and at the same time, really, backed up TVD tremendously. Marcus, 2 interceptions, we have to pull them. If he throws 2 interceptions, two.
Okay.
One you can live with. I really believe one you can live with, but if you throw 2, you got to pull them. You're going to have to pull them. And at the end of the day, again, he mentioned in terms of his preparation. He mentioned in terms of his preparation. So he's got to see something there. He's got to see something. If you're preparing, you got to see are you not preparing for NC State's defense? Or, don't get me wrong, they're gonna throw wrinkles at you, but 2 interceptions, and I think that's it. You just don't want to dig your running game into the hole, and you want to set your field goal kicking up for success. And if you're throwing too many interceptions, that won't happen.
Wow, 2 interceptions. So that means for last game, you wanted to pull him after the second interception then. Is that right?
Did it not come into question? You wonder. You wonder when the third one was broken up, when the third one was incomplete too, Marcus.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. I think it would have been interesting to see what they did if the Virginia defender did secure that third interception. If they would actually go to Emory in that situation. So it's 2 things for me. I think if TVD throws 3 picks for me, I think that's when you pull them. But for what the coaching staff will do, I don't think that they pull him until he throws 4. In my opinion, I think like it because 4 is like, the wheels have done completely fell off this bus. We got to call like a tow truck and to get us out of this situation, because 4 is just it's not something that is really explainable at that point, because
and Marcus, I'm going to share this with you.
I think it's kind of okay, as long as they're not critical ones. But yeah, I think the coaching staff pulls him after 4. I would pull him after 3.
Wow, Marcus, God bless you. Wow, 4 interceptions. Wow, Marcus, keep in mind also they faced double-digit deficits these past few games, so you want to be careful not to. You want to be careful not to 4 interceptions. You want to be careful not to dig yourself in the hole. I'm just saying, 2 wins in a row.
Yeah,
2 wins
especially
in a row.
on the road.
Correct. 2 wins in a row in overtime. You want to make sure that you get that all set up, and hey, look at the composure Emory has had. He's been amazing with his composure. You see him in the press conferences also. He's ready for it. He's built for it, just in case.
Yeah, I think Emory can get the job done if he is called upon. We only have 1 sample size, and that was his first start against, we could say now a mediocre or average Clemson team. This is not the Clemson of old. So, but still, it was a great outing by Emory. TVD got to do better. And that's one of my keys to this game, as we kind of talk about keys to Miami winning this game, is that TVD has to be efficient. We're not asking you to throw for 300 or 400 yards in this game because, like I said, special teams, defense, running game, those elements of your football team are performing at a very high level, which means you don't have to win the game. You just have to not lose the game. TVD has to be kind of focused in the pocket, not get greedy. Like he said, he self disclosed himself that he got a little greedy, uh,
Correct.
and he has to kind of limit the greed here. You got to be conservative, man. You can't be buying an expensive watch. You might have
Yeah.
to go with the Casio. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have to, in a
G
football
Shock.
perspective,
Nothing
that
about that
means
G
you got
Shock watch.
right, right,
Yeah.
exactly. You got to check it down. He has to
I
become
agree.
check down Tyler. At the end of the night, I'm hoping that I am going to call him check down Tyler came through for the Hurricanes because he checked it down to his back or he's checked it down to his receiver in the flat or coming across a shallow cross or something like that. That's one of the big keys for me is that Tyler just has to be efficient and he has to be conservative somewhat and only if he's called upon, which means if you're down big in this game, then you start to take some shots downfield because, like I said, I think the running game and the defense,
Yes.
can help you win this game, as we see last week with Cam Kinchens with the pick six. Your defense can probably score some points for you in this game. You just have to not put NC State in position to score points against you. What are some of your keys for the game?
So here's the key for me, and I made note of this here. I think the key is the pass rushes against the opposing offensive lines. So the pass rush of the of NC State of the Wolfpack and the pass rush of the Hurricanes, both of them trying to get to the opposing quarterbacks. And obviously, we're talking a little bit more about TVD. One thing that's key too, Marcus, is that the Hurricanes haven't allowed much sacks this year. I had to note here they've only allowed 8 sacks this season.
Pretty
So
good.
pretty good. So they're setting up TVD for success by the offensive line, and you wonder what is he seeing out there when he's throwing the ball. 8 sacks, and don't forget he didn't play because of the game because of injury.
Yeah.
So that's the key thing I look at in terms of keys to the game for me, in terms of both sides, the both opposing sides. Now, obviously, I had a note that the Wolfpack they've allowed about a few more sacks, just about like 15 more, like 15 in total, but that's not that many compared to the eight that the Hurricanes have allowed, which is big. So I think the opposing defensive rushes on both sides are what are going to be key to getting to the opposing quarterbacks. In TVD, again, sacked only 8 times. The offensive line, they've only allowed 8 sacks, which is big. You have to respect the way they've improved, and at the same time, you help keeping their quarterback off the ground.
Yeah, absolutely. To your point, Miami ranks 11th in the country in sacks allowed, while NC State ranks 63rd in sacks allowed.
Thank you.
So that's going to be a big factor. I agree with you 100%. But like I said earlier, I mean, TVD has been fairly, upright this entire season. It's just sometimes he's still not making the right decision when he's upright. So yeah, I do think that is going to be definitely key in this game.
And
Going
side note, Marcus, we're saying it all the time. Where's the air raid?
right. Hey, well, when your quarterback is not making throws, it's hard to trust him. It's
Okay,
hard to trust him to air it out.
okay.
And then like against Clemson, you had a true freshman playing. I don't think he air it out until he kind of builds trust. It's like a relationship, man. You can't start, take well, in my personal opinion, I don't start taking a girl out for a trips across the world until there's some trust established. You feel me? So
Absolutely.
So I think that's kind of the problem with this I guess air raid offense is that uh Tyler Van Dyke has done things where you just can't trust him to kind of air it out. So until he starts to connect with some consistency, then maybe we'll see the air raid in these last 4 games of the season, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. The other key for me though, Wes, is Miami has to limit these big plays because NC State, from what I've seen, their offense is not really that prolific. However, they do have some playmakers that can take it the
Absolutely.
distance. So in the last game against Clemson, they had a 72 yarder where it ended up really being the difference in the game. So I think they really kind of need to limit the big plays, and even if you give up a huge chunk play, kind of how like they did last week, and they gave up like a huge chunk play where Cam missed the tackle, but Corey Couch made the tackle before he scored, and then they were able to hold him to a field goal. And in a close game like it was last week, would end up going overtime. Plays like that are game saving plays. So you need those type of plays to happen for the Hurricanes. So I think they really need to limit the big plays for them to come out of Raleigh with a
And
win.
and to segue to that,
Yes.
you mentioned Cam Kinchens earlier. He's been the local kid, amazing for the Hurricanes and
Sure.
redeveloping to what we want him to be. So what I've looked at is that I've said, you know what, and bring this up. I like Cam Kitchens, and I like a potential matchup where he's going to have to defend NC State's top wide receiver Kevin Casey Concepcion. That's his name. So
Yeah.
he was amazing, especially last game against their win against Clemson,
Yeah.
where he had 134 all-purpose yards with 2 TDs.
Yeah.
So he's going to
Including
be
that
that big.
72 yarder.
Correct. So he's going to be that key player for the Wolfpack, where Cam Kitchens, he's going to have to spy on him a little bit. I respect the one-on-one coverage they may have on him, but Cam Kitchens is going to be very valuable in terms of preventing that big play, because at the end of the day, at home, and he's proven that he's been doing his best. And one thing too, as mentioned too, is that it was the third time where he was the ACC Rookie of the Week this season.
Yeah.
So the defense, they've scouted him, and Cam Kitchens, he's going to have to play a valuable role to help with that coverage of him.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely one of my keys as well. Go to canescounty.com for more on that. I definitely highlighted both safeties. In my opinion, James Williams is one of the top safeties when it comes to coverage, according to Pro Football Focus
Yeah,
in the ACC. So I think both James Williams and Cam Kinchens will be key factors in this game. And yeah, I totally agree. Kevin Concepcion, KC, they call him,
yep,
the freshman out of hometown guy from the North Carolina state. Yeah, he's been dynamic. He's really been outstanding, and Miami definitely has to kind of keep him under wraps.
yeah,
On the
and
Yeah,
I mentioned Cam because obviously we know Williams is amazing, deep in that secondary at times too. But Cam, he can roam a little more. Would you agree with me, Marcus? Because that's what I see when you have Cam Kitchens down there in that secondary. He's able to roam a little bit more, and then you can move him around, and he can help with covering Kevin.
yeah, definitely. I mean, what I fear sometimes is that sometimes the safeties get a little bit over aggressive,
I
like we
agree.
kind of saw in that Georgia Tech game late,
Yep.
that
Yeah.
heartbreaker where they get a little
They
bit
had to.
too aggressive and they
Yeah,
don't
man.
stay
Exactly.
disciplined. But at
Yeah,
the same
he
time,
turned the hip. He turned the hip on Cam, and then there you go, touchdown. I'm just
yeah,
like, oh Lord. Yeah,
yeah,
we were there. We were there.
yeah. Unfortunately, we were.
No,
But
no, tell him I called you.
yeah.
You made your
While
way
I was in the
down.
while I was in the press room, but fortunately, I saw what happened on the TV that was on. in there. So yeah, it was a
Uh,
nightmare situation to kind of hear the screams. I'll never forget the sound of the screams from inside the press room that I heard, because it sounded like someone was dying, like, and I was like, oh my God, what's going on? And when I was seeing it all unfold on the television, I thought, okay, well, I guess they got into the field goal range, and I'm gonna have to go back up to the press
yeah,
box and watch the rest of this game. And the fact that that unfolded the way it did, yeah,
yeah.
it's still one of the worst moments, I think, in Hurricanes
I know, man.
history. I hate to say that,
I know, man.
but yeah, especially depending on how this whole season kind of shakes out here. But yeah, yeah, that's the only thing I kind of worry about, just being a little too over aggressive. And they got some other guys too. They've got some other guys besides Concepcion. Obviously, he's the playmaker, as you see him scoring on the video that we have here playing on the YouTube
Hmm.
channel. But yeah, you got to be disciplined in order to kind of get a win here. On the other side of the ball, for me, I think Miami has a player that's very similar to Concepcion, because the other thing about that player is that he runs it out of the backfield. He has a 50-yard run. So he's extremely explosive. But Miami's got an explosive guy too, in Brashard Smith. And to me, he was kind of missed last week, for some reason. I don't know if there was an injury or anything like that, or maybe it was just a game script situation. But I want to see a little bit more Brashard Smith, especially coming out of the backfield as a running back. We saw how dynamic he was against Clemson with that huge run. It was an 80-yard run. So I think that is something that can keep NC State off balance. So he's definitely one of the guys for me as an X factor.
And to touch upon that, Marcus, it sounds like we both agree the running game is what we can count on in
Yeah.
terms of this offense.
Yeah. The offensive line overall, I think you can kind
Yeah,
of count on, because they've probably been the most consistent group all
correct.
year. And I don't think,
Absolutely.
well, I don't remember really ever saying that in recent memory about a Miami offensive line, that the O line is the most consistent group, because you already alluded to earlier about how they've been able to kind of protect uh, TVD and Emery. But
Yeah,
this running game has been, one of the best in the ACC. So that's something
yeah.
that travels, and that is something that I think is going to, wear down the Wolfpack as the game goes on.
Here's a
So
little insight. Here's a little insight to touch on that too. You're at the
yeah,
game. We're at the game pregame, and I see Mario Cristobal, obviously ex-offensive lineman for the Hurricanes. The groups break up. You see the offensive linemen break up, the quarterbacks, just to warm up pregame. Cristobal goes directly to the offensive line. He's directing the offensive line, coaching up the offensive line. This is like five 5 to 10 minutes before kickoff. So you can tell that he's probably had a direct hand on just getting the offensive line in rhythm, in sync, getting them on the same page. And you see them right there before kickoff. They're doing pool drills. They're really pushing each other right before kickoff. And you can tell Cristobal he's had his hand in that. And it shows. It shows tremendously. You hope durability and health keeps the guys there, but you can tell he's had them. And again, it goes back to, well, we say the running game is benefiting this team, and we worry about the play of TBD.
yeah. I mean, him being a former offensive lineman for the University of Miami, he definitely has an emphasis on offensive line play, and like you said, it definitely shows. And of course, he brought his offensive line coach over from Oregon.
Yes.
Many consider him one of the best in the business at what he does. He also brought his defensive line coach, Joe Salovey, as well, along with Alex Mirabal. So the trenches has really been why Miami is 6-2 right now, and have a sliver of hope of making an ACC championship
Yeah.
game. Yeah. So lastly, man, Miami, is favored by 5 points. I think I last saw
Yeah,
5 or 6 points. This has gone up. It started, I believe. I thought I first saw it at
4.5.
3.
Yeah,
So
I saw 3, four and a
yeah. So
half, and then
is
moving
that is
up.
that what
Yeah,
it started at 4?
yeah, I saw 4.5,
Yeah, moving
but I
up.
did
So what
see
does
3.
that mean?
Yeah, okay. I don't
Yeah.
think it
So
means anything, Marcus.
obviously,
Marcus, I don't think
Gabby,
it means
the
anything.
money is going on Miami. Well, from betting perspective, it means that the money's going on Miami. People are believing in
Yeah.
Miami. People think that Miami can make not only win but make the spread. Which I don't know, man. Miami has, they've been kind of up and down when it comes to covering the spread or whatnot. They have a good chance to make this spread, I think, just because of, like I said, of the factors in the running game, and their defense has been solid, as well as trenches on both sides of the ball. But how do you think it all kind of turns out at the end of the day when the final whistle sounds?
Okay, so the Hurricanes, they've won 4 straight meetings against NC State. Okay.
Mm,
They won four
okay.
straight meetings against NC State. NC State, they also have that talented linebacker, Peyton Wilson. He's going to be a key factor.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. I say Miami wins this game. Now,
Okay.
not by 4.5, not by 6. A team coming off 2 overtime wins, 2 overtime games in a row. So I say they win
Right.
by a field goal.
Okay.
Our guy,
I can see it.
Burgales sends it through the pipes, and we win it, and we go home. We go home. We go home. We go home for a win. So I say by 3. It's gonna be a close one. So
Yeah.
Hurricanes,
Okay.
Hurricanes 31, NC State 28. If we were to put a score per se, but I don't
Okay.
see them winning by 5, 6. Look at this
Yeah.
offense. I mean, we've had to lean on the
Yeah.
running game.
Yeah. It's hard to believe that Miami will blow this team out when they can't take care of business at home. They've been big favorites at home where
Mm-hmm.
they have to squeak out wins, i.e., Georgia Tech and Virginia. So where they were big favorites, I believe both games they were 18, 19 point
Correct.
favorites. So it's kind of hard to kind of say, okay, well, this is going to be the game that they turn it around. TVD certainly hasn't shown you that that can happen, and NC State has shown you that they can beat Clemson. They beat Clemson by a touchdown. They beat them in regulation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's
Um,
all bundled up in that middle of that ACC. We know
yeah,
FSU's up top. Okay, king of the hill, but in that middle, it's all bundled up. Both teams 2-2 in conference play. Marcus.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. This is going to be a tough one, and I
Yeah.
agree with you. My score is very similar. I think it's going to be a 30-27 game.
Okay.
Miami has a great kicker, obviously in Andy Borregales, but NC State also has a really good kicker as well. He's kicked a game winner this season against Virginia. So Virginia, kind of suffered a similar fate that they did against NC State that they did against us last week. So yeah, I think that this is definitely going to be a close game, close outcome. That's why Tyler Van Dyke's play is so critical, because it could be one sack, it could be one fumble, one turnover that ultimately decides this game. So you need him
Absolutely.
to be check down Tyler. Hopefully he's checked down Tyler on Saturday night, and the Hurricanes come out of Raleigh with a victory and
Yeah.
still, have hopes of making it back to North Carolina for the ACC championship game.
And one last thing, Marcus, just want you to know that NC State, the last home win in this series came in 2008. The last home win in this series.
Oh
So
wow.
they may have some bulletin board material.
Yeah, that they should. That they should. The last time Miami did play NC State is when Tyler Van Dyke actually had a fourth quarter comeback. He's got, I believe, two fourth quarter comebacks on his resume. That was one of them back in 2021, back in Hard Rock, of course, different environment up in Raleigh. That is going to wrap it up for the Storm Tracker podcast. Once again, that is Wes Lamy from worldwidewest.com. And he is probably going to join me, sometime in the future as well
Absolutely.
for another podcast. Thank you for joining me today for the Storm Tracker podcast.
Absolutely, Marcus. See you soon.
Absolutely. Once again, make sure you subscribe to CanesCounty.com, part of the Rivals.com network. Also, subscribe to this YouTube channel live from Canes County. Until the next episode.